All right, everybody. Another episode of the Airborne Podcast live from Lake Placid for the Lake Placid World Cup. Quinn, this is your first World Cup back in the gate since that knee injury last year. Let's just start there. How you feeling?
Dude, I'm feeling excited. We got a little warm-up last week with the Bristol Nationals, and it was good to get back in the gate, hashtag back in the bib, as the U.S. ski team wants us to say.
Well, and it was a fun competition for us, I think, because we got to hang out with a lot of the young jumpers of the future, a lot of the kids from the Bristol freestyle team, and some kids from Bill Harris's ramp in Ohio.
Yep, that's where I got my start.
Just really a nice culmination of kids all over the country getting to train with the U.S. ski team, with us, get to compete. It was a doubles competition, so it's not an event where you and I are really pushing ourselves.
It was, because I was sick for the week leading up to it. I had the flu, and that was unfortunate, but I showed up the day of the competition and tried to put down some jumps. Unfortunately, didn't put the one down that actually mattered, but it was fun to get out there again and compete.
Yeah, it's always that first comp of the year for me always feels a little bit rusty, and I still think that those nerves are going to be there this weekend
for sure.
Lake Placid. Whenever you go 10 months without competing, or for you even a little longer in a World Cup, you're wondering how do I normally feel? And then you get a few World Cups in and all of a sudden things start feeling better and just more familiar. And that's nice to grow as the season comes on. One thing that's fun is we're in the Olympic Training Center right now. You lived here for 3 years. I lived here for 3 or 4 years. I can't quite remember. So it's weird for us. I feel like I'm back like a kid again, back in the old stomping grounds.
It's really nostalgic being back here. Things have definitely changed since we've been here. Every door now has another scanner. All the cooks and all the people that we used to know are now have moved on to other things in their lives and stuff. But the building still stands, and it's
for
weird.
Me, it's given me a lot of that young energy. You know what I mean? Where I feel a lot of energy to compete, to throw down in front of the people. And Lake Placid's obviously really excited to have us back.
We love Lake Placid because the crowd is always one of the best. There's always a few thousand people at the bottom. It's a night event, which we always love. And it's going to be a great atmosphere to compete again.
So let's just kind of recap, because last time we were talking about what we wanted to do in this season. We just did a month of training in Park City. For you, it was kind of a real warm-up month getting back. For me, I'd say it went solid. We're both up to degree of difficulty. You got a few more tricks to do, but back up on the triple kicker, doing 60-foot triple backflips. For me, hit all, kind of the DD points that I wanted to hit before the event. So now it's kind of just time to go unleash. And first day of training is tomorrow. Yeah,
first day of training is tomorrow. Hopefully the weather will be nice to us, because here in Lake Placid, it's always cold as balls. And hopefully the wind stays away. We've been looking at it, and it's hopefully this day's good. Hopefully that day's good.
Well, for me, I've just kind of succumbed to the fact that we're going to be freezing our tits off out there. And if it doesn't happen for some reason, that will definitely be a welcome surprise. But Lake Placid is definitely a cold town this time of year. And, everybody's going to be dealing with that. Weather around the world has been warm everywhere.
Dude. And I got an advantage, dude. I got my Surefoot boot heaters. I'm ready for that cold.
You just gave the shout out to Surefoot. You're an employee and a sponsored athlete. Yeah. I like it. Let's give the shouts out to Surefoot. And I'm going to give one to Cole Sport, dude out there in Cole Sport getting us ready to go. Mm-hmm. And, first event of the year. So for you, what's your goals for this event? What are you kind of keying in on?
Well, I want to go up there. I want to get up to DD actually. So when we were in Utah, I got up to full back on the triple, and that was a little bit of a grind getting back up there, because they were monitoring how many jumps I could do, and I was slowly did a week of singles, which is a lot for us. We typically do 1 or 2 days and then go up to the double. So it was a slow progression, but it was really good for me, and I felt good throughout it. And then now coming into Lake Placid, I'm going to try to get up to those quad twisting triple backflips, and then go and try and land 3 of those in a row and try and get myself on the podium.
Well, and I was watching you all month. You were kind of like a dog, just pulling at the chain the whole time. I was every day you come out, he's want to move on. And the PT and the coach, they're kind of making sure that your knee's good, that you're strong, that you're feeling good. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of the point where those chains are a little bit off of you now, where you did it all. Now you can get back out there.
Yeah, they let me. Hopefully they'll continue to keep letting me go. I know that my my plan for this week's a little bit different, where typically into a World Cup we have 3 training days. You'll jump all 3 days and then compete on the 4th day, where this week I'm planning on jumping 2 days and then taking the day off before the World Cup and then coming into that comp day fresh. So that'll be a little bit of a change pace for me, and we'll see how that goes.
Well, and I think it's going to be similar. So for those of you tuning in, you might know, but like the Lake Placid this weekend, we got 2 comp days back to back. So we got a Saturday and a Sunday comp. So even myself, I'm going to be taking a day off in there too, because jumping 3 days in a row, that's our normal. We're used to it on comp weeks, pushing to that 4 days in a row. 5 days in a row, it can be done, and it might be done at different points in the season, but that's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, you're going to get to the end of that 5th comp day and that 5th day in a row, and you'll be hurting. But trust me, the back will be hurting, the knee will be hurting, and just your mind will be tired from all those jumping. So I'm just so stoked. But like into the comp week, like, you're a jumper that expects to be on the podium. You expect to be, in the running to win events or be on the podium. And so coming back, first comp back, do you have any of those feelings that are still there? Or are you kind of taking it easy on yourself and whatever happens, happens?
I'm trying to take it easy on myself and not set too high of expectations. But me being the competitor that I am, I always want to win. If I'm jumping in a competition, I expect to win. And so that's the bar that I set for myself. But I have been telling myself that, if things don't go my way, don't get upset, and, keep the expectations a little bit lower. But it's tough. It's tough, like setting the bar a little bit lower than you should for yourself. But that's what I'm kind of trying to do. But realistically, I'm just looking forward to doing triples on the site, because like you said, we lived here for 3 years, and then we took a hiatus from World Cups here because we just didn't have any. And so I've never done triples on this site. I'm really excited to, because there's a long table or long in run, big table, the landing steep, which I know most athletes like. And so I'm just excited to go up and jump on a really sick site.
And I'd say that Lake Placid, just, this is my 10th year on World Cup tour. I think it's the best site in the world. If we're just talking sites, just layouts, just the in run, the table, how the jump goes, how, the landing hill is. So, I know that the rest of the world's expecting to come in here and rip. And, we've got to kind of match that energy and match that, because like it's the kind of site where you could do any trick on, and that's not always the case. We go to a lot of sites in the world, maybe a Kazakhstan or some of these other venues, and just because of some of the difficulties around traveling there and how the site's laid out, you could still do those quint twisting triple backflips, but they don't come quite as easily as a site like Lake Placid. And so the whole world is keying in on this event, and like the dogs are going to be out. People are going to be throwing down for sure.
And I know that I'm looking forward to just getting back in that gate and competing again, getting those butterflies in the tummy when you're about to go for their first jump, and trying to make finals and hopefully super finals. And it'll just be good to just compete again, because it has been a long time since I've gotten to do that on the World Cup, and it'll be great. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it myself, and like I feel maybe what I would say is like an abnormal amount of pressure for this event, for what a normal World Cup might feel like. Mostly because like it is hometown. It's hometown vibes. It's hometown crowd. I got family in town. I got people around. And so just the opportunity to go have a big moment in front of those, people and spectators that you don't normally get to jump in front of. I kind of like, man, this is not your everyday World Cup. Kind of feels a little bit more like a World Championships or no, not the Olympics. That's a little bit too much. But it feels like a little bigger event. So for me, I'm kind of trying to like, all right, recognize that. But then at the same time, just, focus on the process. How do you get there? And it starts with training. It starts with getting out there tomorrow, getting comfortable, pushing up to DD, making sure you're ready to go. And then for me, just like qualifications, handling that first. And sometimes I think a lot of athletes, they want to, especially when you get to a certain level, you want to move your mind a little bit towards that super final.
Yeah.
But
it's hard. You can't. You got to focus on your first jump. You got to go one jump at a time. And like you've told me in the past, to win a World Cup, you got to do at least 3 straight quad twisting triple backflips in a row. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to lay down 3 good quad twisting triple backflips and hopefully land myself on the podium.
Well, and you're capable of it, and you're capable of doing that. I know I'm capable of doing that. I'm kind of looking at the super final. I'm like, all right, well, am I in a position where I want to throw a Clint first event out of the season? It's going to be a little bit of a wait and see because it is a long year.
For sure.
World Championships are April 1st. It's going to be a little bit of a wait and see, which isn't my favorite position to be in. Sometimes it's a little bit more fun to know, just to know like, all right, I'm going to go do it no matter what. But it's going to be just a hair of a wait and see. And it's really just going to depend on weather, depend on how I'm jumping as a jumper, definitely depend on what I see out there from all those other big dogs. And they'll kind of let me know where you got to be. But it's pretty exciting. We don't often start our seasons on home soil. No. Usually we're off in Finland or off somewhere else in the world. And then you come home for that home World Cup. So there's a lot of different things that are kind of culminating in like what has the opportunity to be a really cool night. It can be the best, one of my favorite nights of my career, or it could be one of the worst. And, just having that pressure, I don't know, I feel like as an athlete, that's what we live for. We live for the pressure because that's what makes it all so fucking special.
Yeah, the pressure is what rewards you at the end. After you've gone through that pressure and you've surpassed it and you've done what you wanted to do when you showed up to the site, there's no better feeling because when there's no pressure, it's like, anyone could have gone and done that at any point in time. And so the pressure does make it special. And definitely there is a little added pressure for this one because it's a home World Cup, because we'll have our families here watching and because we'll have our friends here. It's a little bit different. And I think both of us are looking forward to that. And I hope other competitors are as well.
Well, and we got a whole team out there that I think's feeling that. Quinn and I, we've obviously been doing the podcast and talking and getting a little better at really explaining our feelings. But we got Justin Schoenefeld, I know, who also lived here, wants to have a big event. We got Kayla Kuhn up there on the triple, wants to have a big event. Probably, her first event competing on the triple. Did she compete on the triple last year?
She competed on the triple in a few events last year. She didn't compete in every event, but she competed in a few.
But like kind of getting into the gate and kind of push that envelope. Winter Vinecki, who had kind of a heartbreaking end of the season last year where was in first place going into the last event, made the finals, had a weather and inclement fog. It was fog. It came in, couldn't even see the jump from the in run. Decisions were made to cancel that event, but it resulted in us taking that qualification round and her losing that opportunity to go really, finish the whole competition and win. And I know that's she's itching to get back in there, rewrite that narrative, get another W, especially at home.
And then we have some rookies this year on the ski team that I know they're looking forward to competing in a World Cup under the U.S. ski team name. So it'll be exciting to see how our team shows up for this first World Cup.
We got our two rookies, Kira Dosa, who was her first year on the team this year, and then we got Ian Schoenwald, who he's our homie Cheese. Shout out to Cheese. We expect him to be nice and cheesy out there.
Yes, sir.
Don't know exactly where the nickname came from, but he definitely, he's a little goofy. He embodies that nickname. So I hope to see some of those young guys have that cool moment because I think back to some of my first World Cups and those were in Lake Placid and in Deer Valley.
As well as my first World Cup ever was here in Lake Placid. Unfortunately, one of the members of the U.S. ski team at the time had gotten hurt, and I snuck in with a little spot, and I was doing like latex on the double in the World Cup, which I knew I wasn't competitive at all, but it was just super cool to get out there and be able to compete with the best in the world at our home site. So I know that this one is a special one for all of us.
I just think that that's fun though, because I'm just kind of thinking about how the careers change over time. Because when you're a young guy, there's a lot of, I don't want to say moral victories, but personal victories, right? Like making a finals would be a huge deal, or getting in the top 15 or getting in the top 10. Those are huge deals. And then as your career kind of changes over time, it's all about the podium. That's all it's about, and it's fun because you can watch someone have the best day of their career and they get knocked out right in finals, yet they're still smiling and having a great time and kind of celebrating. So it's cool to watch all those little moments along the way. Those are some of the cool things that you get, especially at a home World Cup where we get more starts. And then obviously Sunday will be our team event. Now, we talk about it all the time. The reason we talk about it is because we got to get right to USA's had very good luck in the team events. But I know from speaking to my homie Louis Irving and the Chinese, definitely, that pisses them off. They hate it. They hate it, which is good. It's good for us, to kind of feel that confidence coming into event, but you also feel that all these other big hitting teams around the world, they want to take it away from us. And it's our job to just make sure that that doesn't happen. And so we've won the last 4 team events in a row, including world championships, including the Olympics, including some World Cups. And we expect to keep that dominance going on. Mm-hmm. And so that narrative is something that I think that our team really looks forward to pushing ourselves towards. It's very interesting when you go into a team event and you're like, it's first or last, baby. That's what we need. And you kind of know that it's going to come to an end eventually, but at the same time, that's what's fun about a streak. We want to keep it going. We want to make sure that they're as bummed for as long as possible. Nobody takes it away from us, and it's their job to do everything that they can to take it away from us. And it just builds that intensity around the event. So it should be a lot of fun on Sunday as well.
Yeah, well, I know I'm looking forward to both days and just getting out there and doing it again.
What I think would be interesting to talk about is how the team event is picked. Because we sitting here right now, we're recording this podcast. None of us know who the team is going to be. We only know that we got to win, whatever team it is. Mm-hmm. And so obviously, Quinn, you've got a great shot at being on that team, but you've also got to beat out some other athletes that are going to be looking to slide in there and take that. Same thing with me. So, a lot of people assume that if you're a world champion like we were in 2023, or if you're an Olympic champion like Justin, Ashley, and I were in 2022, that, you're locked again in the next team event. Maybe. It's a big maybe. Our team's going to be picked off of what happens on day 1 and Saturday. Yep. So everybody's got to go out there and perform. They want the very best team at the very best time. Mm-hmm. And so sitting here right now, it's like you're looking forward to Sunday. I'm like, I hope I'm looking forward to Sunday. I'm planning on it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So going from there, we got some questions that we pulled on our Instagrams and from some little kids from the Bristol national team. And we're going to go through some of these questions that are frequently asked about aerials and let you guys know a little bit more about the sport. And
at least what we think about the sport. There's definitely going to be some disagreements. Some of these questions that came out are far from there's one right answer. Mm-hmm. So if we kind of start running through them, the first one is tough.
Yeah, who's the GOAT?
Who is the GOAT?
So I feel like there are 2 answers to this one. There is the stat GOAT, and then there's the technique GOAT, the one who you think your jumps look the best. And so, in my personal opinion, I think the stats GOAT's got to be Pooh. It's got to be Mr. Pooh. Chinese jumper. He has like 30-something podiums, like 20
Well, I
wins.
just read on Instagram today, 19 World Cup wins, and he is 1 World Cup win away from the record all time.
Yeah.
So, it could be this weekend, and he'll get it. He's going to get it. Yeah. He'll be the record holder at some point. He's going to take it away from Steve Omashal is the current record holder at 20 World Cup wins. And the guy's been around since forever.
He competed in the 06 games, if I'm not mistaken.
06 or 2010, but definitely he is the oldest guy on tour. And just he kind of, it's kind of funny. You watch a guy like that who's an Olympic champion, multi-time world champion, multi-time World Cup overall champion. I mean, the guy's won more competitions than I've even competed in, probably.
And then to switch gears a little bit, I think some of the best jumps I've ever seen, if we're going off of that statute for the GOAT, I think it's got to be Burhoff. Some of the nicest jumps I've ever seen.
Well, he's definitely pushed the DD and,
Maxime
Burhoff from Russia, who has not been on the World Cup tour this will be his 3rd season not participating. So it's a little weird to have, what could arguably be the best jumper in the world not competing due to the war in Ukraine. And so for me, that's weird, right? Because Maxime and I came up together and I've watched him and I know that wherever he is out there in Russia or in Belarus, I mean, the guy's training and he knows how to get it done. So he'll be back one day, it. But this is where things get interesting, right? Because you look at greatest of all time. Mm-hmm. What matters more, stats or jumps? Yeah. I personally, for me, I say stats.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning stats too.
Because
that shows that you've had those jumps and you've had them for a while. So I think that's where we got to go. I think we got to go Mr. Pooh.
Well, and like Mr. Pooh, we call him Mr. Pu, Qi Gongpu from China. He's competed head-to-head against Borov and beat him several times, even as a guy, it's kind of like Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl a few years ago in the Olympics, where you've got, Tom Brady coming out, and he's clearly the GOAT stat-wise and probably the best to ever do it. But then you're watching a Patrick Mahomes play. I'm a Josh Allen guy, so shout out Josh Allen. I still think, he's going to get the Super Bowl done this year, and then we can kind of rewrite that narrative. But you're watching Patrick Mahomes play, and he's kind of doing things in football that have never been done before. And that's kind of how Maxime is, right? Where Maxime maybe doesn't have the stats or the pedigree that a guy like Qi Gongpu has, but he has done things that have never been done before by anybody other than him. And so it definitely kind of elevates his status. It's hard to call it, but I also got to give it a few notable mentions on that question. Anton Kushner from Belarus.
That's another.
Olympic champion 2014. Might even have the most overalls won by anybody, but just an absolute force out there. Steve Omashal, he's a great jumper. Unfortunately, no Olympic W, so you can't get him in the GOAT conversation quite yet. But he does have the most World Cup wins ever. And so there's a lot of notable mentions in there in that aerials history, but I got to give it to my boy Pooh. I mean, the guy comes out, he's healthy, he's ready to go, and pretty much anytime he graces the hill with his presence, he's a force to go win. So moving on to the next question, it'll be interesting to see if you do have an opinion, if you think we're wrong, if you think we're full of shit based on what we just said. Comment, tell us, send me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to hear the debate. That's the fun part of what we're talking about that one.
All right, next question. How do you not break your legs when we land?
Good question.
So I'm going to start it off with when we show up to the site in the morning and we're about to go jump, we actually go down on the landing hill with shovels. All the athletes, not on comp days, but any training day, we'll go through the landing and chop it. So we put more air in the hill and break it up so it's softer. And then second off, the landing hill is at a certain angle. I'm not exactly sure what the angle
37 degrees plus or minus 1 degree usually is the general gist.
So because it's at such a steep angle, that takes a lot of the pressure off of our joints and off of our bones and stuff when we drop out at 55 feet in the air. So
and we're just strong as shit. To be honest.
But
and I'm not necessarily talking about who can lift the most because aerials is a lot about body weight. I mean, what goes up must come down. And so we go roughly 60 feet up and we come down just that fast, 9.8 meters per second, if I remember my physics class. Shout out Mrs. Knight, 8th grade. But we're very body weight strong. So I weigh right now 145 pounds.
I'm right at 160.
And it's all about how strong can you be for how light can you be. And so, the idea is to come down, get your eyes on the hill, look at the hill and just explode off of it.
And that's a great segue into one of our other questions is where are you looking at throughout your jump? How do you not get lost and how do you know when you're going to land and how you're going to land?
Well, I think that's an interesting question because I think it's something that separates aerials from other sports where, a lot of free skiing sports, they don't quite spot the hill the same way that we do. And also a lot of gymnastic sports, some of that stuff's just feel for them. Aerial skiing's a lot different. If you're doing any jump that has a single twist in it, meaning not two twists, not two 360s, but just one, we can see the ground in those jumps.
So a full. You take off and you miss it right off the bat when you go over, but as soon as you come around, you spot that landing hill and you do not lose it for the rest of the jump. So from
at least if you're good at it,
exactly. So ideally, right from half a flip in to the time that your feet hit the ground, we are staring directly at the landing hill. Now it changes a little bit when you start if you do a single backflip, you lose it because you can't spot it on the full, or if you're doing a double full or a triple full. So
if you're doing a triple full, you don't see shit.
So with a double full, when we go around and we wrap, we actually lose the landing hill for a second. And then when we come out of it, you've got to pick that landing hill back up and relearn where you're what your flip timing is, how big you are, and you've got to do those adjustments in your head so that you can pick the right range and hopefully land your jump.
Well, and I think it's just a combination of senses, right? So skiing into a kicker, usually within about 1 kilometer an hour, like if it's inside of that, I usually can't feel it. But if you're more than 1 kilometer an hour fast or more than 1 kilometer an hour slow, you're generally going to feel that. Yep. So you got a little information there.
You can feel it with the wind on your face
in your skis, in your body.
Yeah, you can feel that.
And so you're kind of like got a little bit of information there. Then you're moving forward, you get up in the air and you kind of feel how fast you're flipping off the takeoff. That's another tidbit of information. So that's going into the brain. You're like, all right, I was feeling quick. And then maybe I'm flipping a little faster, a little slower. That's going to kind of tell us a little bit about where we're going to be. And then after that, it's all vision, where you're looking at the ground and you're making those adjustments consciously.
But then you also, to add on top of that, you have your coach who's watching from the side. So if you make a miscalculation, like, oh, you think that you're big, but really you've got normal speed and you're overstretching it, your coach will tell you that you're good or to pull, and that will give you another little bit of information to use. And sometimes your coach is dead wrong and you'll just completely ignore it. That happens all the time too. But it's just
hopefully not all the time. Yeah. But it does happen. And it's just like this combination of a bunch of little pieces of information, probably with vision being the biggest one.
Yeah, definitely.
To get yourself to your feet. So I always kind of like, it's like almost like in a way, it's like landing an airplane a little bit where you're watching that ground, you're kind of checking your speed, you're checking your rotation, all that stuff. And it's all this big combination of information that if you're good at it and you train all these years, that should be enough to get you at least pretty close. But we make mistakes all the time. One thing I always like to tell people that a lot of people don't realize is that aerial skiers crash on, if you're average aerial skier, about 50-50. If you're good at it, you start to press above 50%, and that's on the triple.
So that's a great segue into another one of our questions is, what is your landing percentage? So that depends on what jump you're on and what trick you're doing. So on the double, I would say you and I average about 90% landing percentage with.
Dude, I'm on the double this year. I'm pretty much goated right now. I got one crash on the year. Total on the double. I've done about 100 of them, maybe a little bit more.
So 99%,
so I'm about a 99%
for
guy
Chris.
right now.
My landing percentage on the double for this year is sitting at about a 90 to a 95% landing percentage. And then once you move up to the triple and you get into more difficult tricks, that landing percentage, of course, goes down. And Matt tracked it last year. I think.
I'd say I'm roughly an 80% guy, 75 to 80%. But I'm talking when we consider a land, that's any jump where we don't touch our hands or body or butt to the snow.
That's just feet. So you are sticking it. Nothing else is touching. You are skiing away with no other body parts touching the snow.
But that doesn't mean every landing's good. So it's like there's a lot of landings. And I would say more than half of that 80% are landings that have mistakes to them. Maybe a slight carve out, maybe a slight chest dropping or getting pretty low or going ass to grass and whatever. Not exactly what we'd be looking for in competition. Yep. That competition landing, that's a stick. You want to stick it. You want to stick the shit out of it.
And I would say the percentage of sticks is probably around
20%, 30. Yeah. Hopefully it's higher in competition, but it's a tough task. It's far from easy. And it also depends on what trick you're doing.
Definitely,
you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So,
like my landing percentage on Quint twists is 0.
Yeah,
and that's really
my lifetime landing percentage on Quint twists. I've done it for 4 years now. I've probably on snow total done it maybe 50 times. And it's roughly a 50-50 proposition, but 50, probably a tick below that.
So that's crazy. Like imagine going in for a Quint twisting triple backflip and you've got a 50-50 shot of landing it.
And that's if you're good at it.
And that's if
you're good at it. There are some people that have a 0% shot of landing it and still doing it. So that's kind of what makes aerial skiing cool, is that we're always pushing.
But then with where our bread and butter is quad twisting, triple backflips. And I would say our landing percentage on the triple for those, depending on which one, because everyone has a favorite trick, which we will go into next, it's about 70%, 70 to 80%.
70. Yeah. It kind of just depends on where you're at, how well you're jumping. But like we can get pretty good at it. I always say it's not about how many times I crash, it's how many times I crash hard.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you remember, where last year I was doing a Quint twisting triple and came off the jump. It's one of the hardest part about doing a Quint twisting triple is keeping those feet together. So I came off the jump. I had already done it. I think that was my third one of the day. But this is kind of also what led to your knee injury in a way. But the feet went. Yeah. The feet went, and once they go, they never come back. So I lost the feet, kind of lost my orientation as well. Got lost is what we call it. So I'm in the air, I'm kind of flipping and twisting and don't know what the fuck's going on. And I landed backwards and smashed my dome, you know, and so those are the ones that keep you up at night. Those are the ones you think back to. It's not, you know, if I do a little bit of a, you know, touch a hand or slap back kind of hard or something like chill, I'll forget about that one pretty quickly.
So let me ask you, what is your favorite trick? I have a feeling that ours is going to be the same, but what's your favorite trick?
Favorite trick? Well, I want to say two different things.
Yeah.
So favorite trick that's hard is double in. That's double in on the triple. So 2 twists on the first flip, 1 twist, and then 1 twist. Reason is because that's standard. It's a very difficult trick in our sport. It's one of the higher degree of difficulty tricks that you're going to see in a qualification or in a finals round or even in a super final. You win a World Cup with this thing. Yep. So it's a hard trick, so you feel pretty good about it when you do it, but it's grip it and rip it. You get up, you put that hand up, you freaking rip 2 twists right off the jump, and then you start flying.
And I would say I'm the same. That's my favorite trick.
Because I taught you to love it.
And I like it for a very similar reason. I always say it's a set and forget trick. It's if you hit a good takeoff, the rest of that trick is right there for you. But there's some tricks.
Takeoff ain't easy.
Yeah, no, it ain't. And there are some tricks like full, double full, which is 1, 1, 2, where you hit that good takeoff and you got to do 2 flips of, wait for it. Now.
And then rip that 2 twist right into the hill. So that one can be a little scary too. They're all scary. But I'm kind of like, look at my favorite trick is a full. Yeah. Here's why.
Yeah, okay.
It's the easiest trick in the sport once you get pretty far down. It's not hard at all. It would win me nothing. Not even the nationals and the competition that we did last week would a full get the job done. So kind of looking at that. But the reason is it's about as close to a stress-free and just flying trick that you can do. It's not very stressful, especially not for a World Cup jumper. It physically feels very fun in the air. And so I would say that most aerial skiers, even if they're retired for a decade, if you were like, hey, go do one trick, they'd say to go do a full. Yeah. And it's just because it's a lot of fun, but it's pretty easy. You see the ground the whole time. So, but favorite trick to rip on World Cup Tour has always been the double in. Grip it, rip it, stick it, get the medal, get the money, get out of there.
Segueing into our next question, what is your favorite site? So I have 2 answers for this. I would say like site, like angles and just the actual build of the site itself is probably Lake Placid without the weather. Because sometimes Lake Placid's weather is but just from what I've remembered, I love the big in run. You got in run for days. The table's nice and long, so it gives you time to set up for your jump, and then that landing is steep. And I really, really like steep landings. But then on the other hand, if we're going atmosphere, it's got to be Deer Valley. Deer Valley's atmosphere when we go up and compete and we have a few thousand people at the bottom just going absolutely crazy for aerials. It's just nothing beats that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that you just said. For me, I'm going to kind of take a different route on it because my favorite site's whatever site I win on. You know, because like at the end of the day, there's always crashes. There's always bad takeoffs, bad jumps on every site, even a site you're really comfortable on. But I've had sites where I've had a lot of success. I have sites where I'm still waiting to have success. But I'd say that my favorite site in the world is also my least favorite site in the world, if that makes any sense. And I'm going to say Kazakhstan.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Now, here's why it's my favorite. I've had some great moments there. I've had a silver medal in the World Championships in Kazakhstan. I've had, I think, 3 individual podiums there. I've had a World Cup win on that site. So just a lot of really fun, good memories there. With that being said, that site kind of sucks.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
and
there
so
are a lot of things
it's
wrong
interesting.
with that
All
site.
the training days, all the stuff, and like not to really, rag on that site at all, but one of the reasons that it stinks is because the times that we go there, it's always very warm, it's very sloppy, the table's very short. It's a difficult site to jump on, but sometimes those sites are a little bit more fun because they really push you as a jumper to be able to adjust and to be malleable, right? And be able to do things differently. So a site that like Lake Placid is always really fun to jump on, but like I know for a fact, like it's like gravity that we're going to see bangers this weekend.
Yeah,
absolute
for
bangers. Sure. And so you kind of go into that kind of site and you're like, all right, I know what I have to do. I know what they're going to do. But then I look at a site like Kazakhstan. I'm like, sometimes just making it off the kicker is a win.
One honorable mention, though, has got to be the UOP, our home site that we train on all the time. That thing, when the weather's good and we've been jumping on it for a while, there might not be a better training site in the world like that.
Well, and I look at the UOP, I'd love it if they threw a World Cup there one day.
Oh,
only because if you want to talk about home field advantage, I mean, that's where I've taken more jumps than any site in my entire career.
For sure.
I mean, out of those 50 quints I was talking about, probably about 25 of them, maybe 30 of them have been done there.
Definitely.
And so, it's a site where when the weather is good and the site is ready to go the way we want it, you can rip. You can absolutely rip on it. So interesting thing. I do want to say I love Kazakhstan for anybody listening. I don't want to get in trouble for saying that site stinks, but it does stink as far as a warm up goes. But I love Kazakhstan. Always had a good time going there. And have had some really great moments in my career. And so.
All right.
Can't wait to get back.
Let's fire through some more. Favorite jumper of all time. I gotta go with Speedy, just with his mindset and his dog mentality. I'll tell a little story after you say yours, but it's gotta be Speedy, Jarrett Speedy Peterson.
I go into it because we can talk about Speedy for a long time. I want to hear the story about Speedy. I mean, it's kind of a stolen answer because I think every American jumper has a special place in their heart for Jarrett Speedy Peterson because he was just the most vicious jumper to ever do the sport.
So my story, it comes from our top coach, Matt, who was at the 2010 Vancouver Games. So they show up on the first day of training. And typically when we show up, you start on the double and you do like maybe a day of doubles and go through and figure out the site. So he shows up, everyone's on the double and he's like, what the hell are y'all doing? Like, this is the Olympics. Like, you guys are being wussies. And so he proceeds to go up to the triple, first jump, and he goes and rips. And also, when you go up to the triple for the first time, you typically go do like a lay full
easy trick.
Like
whatever your easiest trick. It's still a triple backflip, but your easiest trick to get is general.
So he shows up. He goes straight up to the triple. No one's hit it before. This is a brand new site. And he goes and rips a full double full. He goes and rips a quad twisting triple backflip, the first jump on the site. I can't remember exactly how it went.
I'm pretty sure he landed on his face.
Yeah, he might have slammed on it, but he ended up doing 2 more triples that day. So he showed up first training day of the Olympics, did 3 triples, and then went peace. And that's just like the mindset of Jarrett Speedy Peterson. Like, he's just a dog when it came to jumping.
And he passed away in 2011. So, unfortunately, Quinn and I didn't get to spend as much time jumping with him, but just a guy that was larger than life. But the biggest thing about Speedy, if you talk to anybody who jumped with him or knew him, is that nobody can be Speedy other than Speedy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of jumpers like, oh, go be like him. There's a lot of jumpers out there. You couldn't even manage it. He was that guy and, just in a class of his own, in a mindset of his own, just a dog out there. And so, I have a special place in my heart for Speedy. Every American jumper does. This is a guy that's a legend. But, my favorite jumper, I would say, and this is going to sound a little bit, but it's Chi Yong Pu. Yeah. It really is. Here's why. The guy is a freaking tactician. He's surgical.
Yeah,
and so I've watched him compete my whole career, even before I even truly started jumping in this sport. And now I'm 10 years on World Cup tour, and he's still out there kicking my ass. And he's a guy that every time I beat him, even in his, I think he's 34 now. Even now, it would be extremely gratifying.
I remember in China last year before I got injured, I qualified first and he qualified second, and I was like, yo, dude, I just qualified above. Like, it didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, you probably won that competition later that day.
But just beating him even in a single round, you're like.
But this guy's a freaking tactician.
Yeah.
He's got a poker face like nobody else. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to jump. He knows how to compete. He knows how to put down a great jump every single time. And just the longevity of his career, watching him be that good for that long, and even taking a year off after the 2022 games where he got his Olympic gold, and coming back out last year and winning half the World Cups at 33 years old and winning the Globe. The guy's
absolute savage.
Just someone I really look up to. Honestly, I'm also going to say Anton Kutcher because that guy was just a beautiful jumper.
All right. Next question. How many jumps in a summer session versus a winter session? So that's kind of interesting because
how many times did I eat shit?
Yeah, exactly. So in the summer, there will be times where we do 2 sessions a day, which you would never do on snow. And during those summer sessions, I've done up to 14 triples in a single session.
But that's a huge session.
That's
I would say the normal
you wouldn't
session,
do 2 14 sessions.
Your normal everyday session is probably going to be somewhere around 8 to 10.
Yeah.
That's your normal. If you're pushing for it, if you're trying to get something done, maybe 14 and push it. But that's your summer session. For
and then the
winter,
most I've done in a day, done over 20 doubles in a day or 20 triples in a day. And then moving down, I've done sessions where I've done 2 15 jump double sessions a day. So,
and that's still on water.
Yeah, this is still on water. And then when you move to snow, those numbers definitely come down a little bit because there's just more impact on your body. That's just the nature of the game. And
with that being said, though, I still do, even at this point, I still do a lot of 10 triple sessions if I'm feeling good. If the weather, the thing about snow jumping that's different than water ramping is that water ramping, I always is like, it's like kind of like running on the treadmill. Like you set your pace, you set how long, how much you're going to do for the day, you go rip it, and then, that's where you're at. Versus snow jumping, it's all about weather. It's all about, what's going on in the site. It's all about crashes and all these different other factors that kind of go in.
So on an ideal day, you'd show up, cold start it, which means going straight up to the triple.
First jump of the day.
And then you go
60-foot triple back.
Yeah, you go do a lay full, and then maybe a full, and then go do 6 to 8 quad twisting triple backflips, or eventually you do a few quad twisting triple backflips, and then if you're really getting after it, go do some quints. So that would be an ideal day on the triple. And then on the double, you can do a few more, but typically on snow, we're about 10 jumps a session.
Yeah,
no matter what jump you're on.
It does depend on what you're doing. Because some of my favorite sessions I ever did was, one lay full, which is double twisting triple, move on, full, triple twisting triple, move on. Go on to double in, quad twisting triple, move on, hit 2 quints, go rip them, and then peace out.
Yep.
And, it's like kind of depends on your emotions. What are you doing that day? Because the emotions can play a huge factor in where if I did a bunch of jumps that are super stressful, super scary, whatever, that might mitigate the amount of jumps I'm going to do. Not for any other reason that once that adrenaline pops, it inevitably always crashes, and it takes a lot out of you. You come home from some of these sessions, you're tired.
Oh yeah, the adrenaline crash is real. After my first triple this year, coming back from the injury, I definitely got an adrenaline crash headache, and I know that you've probably gotten those before, which is where you have so much adrenaline in your system, and then you get back and you calm down a little bit, and then your body just doesn't even know what to do, and you get a headache from the amount of adrenaline that had just been rushing through your veins. So, all right, we're going to move on to this next question. How do you know the speed on a new jump site?
By whatever the guinea pig did, usually.
Yep. So the guinea pig is the person that first hits the jump, and there is some guessing.
There's some educated guessing.
Educated guessing. So when we first show up to a site that we've already jumped on before, we typically know kind of where we're starting. And then we also have speed traps. So we'll go through the speed trap and guess what speed we think is correct for how far away the jump is and what angle the jump is.
Yeah, length of the table, the in-run. And a lot of times the coaches are judging these things. And generally, as far as an athlete, the way it goes.
That's with the double too.
You go up to your coach, you say, hey, boss, what's the speed?
Yeah.
And he gives you a number. Who knows where he gets it? Maybe pulls it right out of his ass. And you go check and then go give it a rip.
And then for the triple, once you've done doubles, it's typically 10K. You add 10K for a triple. So if we're hitting double at 55, we're going to go try and hit that triple at 65. Is generally how we do it.
But the real thing is the guinea pig. That's the guy. He's the guy who goes off that jump first. You look at his speed. Generally, for Quinn and I, we have a nice little, rapport where we can, if I don't know the speed
Georgia,
at all.
tell them about Georgia.
Georgia's a great example. If I don't know the speed at all, or if he doesn't know the speed at all, so we're in Georgia, we're there for world championships, we're going up to go hit the triple. Weather there was trash, but This day it was actually pretty good. So a lot of motivation to go make the most of it, get up to your DD, get ready to go. And so we're getting up there. Quinn had gotten one speed check
speed check before the speed trap broke.
And so the electricity dies and the speed trap breaks and no more speed checks for anybody. But he got his number.
And it was what, like 64.5? It was like right where we're in that range.
It was close, right? And so we were just like, because we have a similar body type, similar height, it might not be perfect for us, but as far as
always typically within a ski of each other.
Within a ski lane, so we can just go start at the same spot, and I can kind of use, and every jumper's got different teammates or people that they jump with regularly where they kind of know their difference. Now, the fun part is sometimes you're going for a jump, right? And because we know how close we are, like let's say Quinn and I are always within a ski of each other. So if we're 2 skis away from each other, one of us is wrong. And one of us is probably right. And so, we still give it a rip. We usually go at our spot, but we kind of know somebody's wrong at this.
To revert back to the Georgia, so I get the speed check. Chris doesn't get a speed check. No one's done triples on this site before.
Maybe, I think ever.
No, we were the first people to hit triples on that site. And I was trying to get it. You wouldn't let me. And so you were like, all right, I'm just going to go from your spot. We know that was 64.5 or whatever it was. And you ended up getting the triple without speed checking at all. And do you remember right before we were about to go, the power comes back on and you're in the gate.
Yeah, it was like about
the power
to
comes back on. And Vlad's like, well, do you guys want a speed check? And we were both like, nah. Like
I was already in it.
Yeah, we were already in the mindset.
Let's just do this thing.
Short story, we can go and hit the jump without speed checking as long as someone that we know where we can reference from has like gotten a speed.
Well, and at a certain point, it's like you just got to be willing to take a hit sometimes. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Like it's not all, you're not always gonna land your first jump of the day, or like we take smashes, and that's one of the parts of the sport that I think that a lot of people, like even when I talk to young kids that are on the Bristol freestyle team, they look up to me or to you and they're like, oh, like a world champion, Olympic gold medalist, whatever. They must never get scared. They must never crash. It's like, nah, dude, I'm addicted to getting scared. Yeah. I'm addicted to crashing. Like I love the feeling of overcoming something or pushing it. And I think, that's what makes aerial skiers.
The overcoming the unknown.
Exactly. So that's part of it. It never goes away.
So next question. This is from Allie, who's actually in Bristol, one of the little jumpers that we was jumping with.
And she is one of my I think this girl will be a U.S. ski team member one day.
So what workouts do you do in season versus off season? So what do we do? How do we work out differently between the winter and the summer?
I would say that the biggest difference is we work out hard in the summer. Yeah. And then in the winter, you're just trying to fix yourself.
Yeah. Well, I would say it's during the summer, we're trying to build strength and get stronger because you can be more sore during the summer, and it's okay because you're just going in the water. You don't have to worry about landing. And then during the winter, the workouts don't really differ with like what exercises we're doing. It's just the frequency with which we're working out decreases, and we're trying to just maintain that strength throughout the winter. So I would say that's the difference between in season and out of season lifting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just nailed it. I mean, we build in the summer, we build in the spring, and we especially build in the fall, right before we get going. But all those times, that's heavy lifting, that's working out every couple days, if not every day, pushing yourself. Yep. And then when the winter comes around, there's going to be days when your knee's swollen or your back's messed up or all this different stuff. It's going to prevent you from lifting. So it's more maintenance. It's more like yesterday, I think I lifted like 20 kilos on each side for squats. Yeah. And that was literally just because I'm like, I want to squat a little bit, but I know if I put too much into this, I'm going to be like done.
But all right, going on to the next question. What are your goals for this season? My goals for this season are to survive and get some podiums. I'm going to keep it short and sweet with that one. Like just stay healthy for this year and hopefully get some results that I'm stoked with is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. And I'd say that for me, right, like my goal has been the same for a while.
Don't you? Yeah.
It's not different. It doesn't change. Sometimes people but it's how you get there is the things that change. You know what I mean? Like I've been trying to win the overall for about, I would say seriously been trying to win it for about 4 years now. Yeah. And I know I have the capability to do it. I know I'm one of the guys that has that ability. It's more about how do you make the adjustments? Because I haven't done it yet. I was 3rd last year in the overall. I was 4th the year before. Usually having one weekend or one event that kind of went poorly enough to take me out of it. Mm-hmm. And so it's more about
the consistency with you.
The consistency, and then just like pushing towards that goal. Like you can't try the same thing more than once and like keep expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. So for me, it's always about, I'm constantly analyzing and adjusting and trying to figure out how I can get that little bit farther and take down these homies. And like, they're good. They're damn good. Noe Roth, Pyramid, Werner from Switzerland, Dima Ka from Ukraine, Pu from China, and a bunch of the other China, Shooty Wu. These guys are nasty. I know that they put all the same work in as me, if not more. They got all the same talent as me, if not more. So it's really about like, how do you make those small adjustments to just go get it from them? And it starts this weekend, and it's an exciting opportunity, but like, that's what I want. And then obviously going into a World Championships year, we're trying to get World Championships medals, and then the Olympics next year, we're trying to win the Olympics. So those are always the goals, but they don't change. It's the process that changes.
Yep. And then another question, who do you look up to and why? I'm going to go outside of this sport because I looked up to Michael Phelps and Tiger Woods. I looked up to people who dominated their sport and changed it for forever. Like those are the type of athletes that I looked up to and still continue to look up to, even though Michael Phelps has since stopped swimming and Tiger Woods is still competing, but you just got to admire that greatness and that level of dominance.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say the same thing. I would say that over a career, and especially when I was younger, a big person I looked up to, because I got the pleasure to train with her, was Hannah Carney. Mm-hmm. She's a champ. She's a champ's champ, and so she won just about everything that you could win. She won the Olympics in 2010, 2-time Olympic medalist. But she also trained with me when I was younger and gave me a great foundation to look up to and to kind of model some of my training after, and just kind of taught me how to do it. And then at the same time, I would say that athletes I look up to right now are my other competitors, as much as like, you got to have that respect. Mm-hmm. So like, I look at a guy like a Noe Roth or a Pyramid Werner or Dima Ka from Ukraine, or, Qigong Pu or Louis Irving, and these guys that I know have put all this effort into it, and it inspires me to keep pushing myself. Definitely, right? And like, especially the guys that have been around for a while. So like, there's a lot of competitive nature. There's a lot of times when I'm always like, trying to beat them, but it's like, I also look up to them in the fact that like, you got to respect those other athletes in the sport and those real champions out there that have accomplished a lot. And, you hope that respect goes both ways, but I've always thought like, respect for your competitors, for your high level guys, for the best guys that are doing it right now in your sport, that has always been my best way to push myself.
Yeah. Do we want to go into this one? Best aerials power couple? Because there are a few, and there's some. That's a tough one. And I think both of us will be a little biased, but how about we pick ones that aren't ourselves?
Yeah, all right. I like that.
I'll name them off for you. So there's myself and Kayla. There's you and Winter. Those are off the table. There, Justin and Ashley. We'll see if Ashley ever comes back, but Justin and Ashley, Tao Tao and
Shooty Woo.
Shooty. There's also. There are a few more.
Gosh, wow, we're really incestual here on aerials.
Yeah.
One thing that I would say, I don't know if we should pick a best, because but the one thing that I say is it's nice to have a person in the sport who knows you as a person and knows you as an athlete, who you can kind of get in there and push and be pushed in a way that's fun. So I kind of look at that. It's kind of like dating someone from work.
Yeah.
But it's a very high intensity work. So I don't want to get too much into that one, but what I will say is it's an awesome experience to be able to push each other at a real personal and as a professional. And
for sure.
I look at you and Kayla, you guys are great teammates, on top of, a great couple. And I look at, Winter and I, and it's very similar, where we focus on being teammates first. We've trained together for a long time, and I think that the couples that are able to do that, that's a lot of fun. You kind of caught me off guard. I don't even know if I'm in trouble, because Winter and I have been dating for 3 years and we've never talked about it publicly. I might even be in trouble for bringing that question up, but we'll see. It's a podcast. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be real, and it's raw. and that's where we're going here. So
all right, we'll go down to our last question. Why did you choose aerials over another sport?
people don't choose aerials.
That's what
Aerials chooses them.
Well,
Dude. Aerials chooses you.
I'll say
choose.
for myself, I started off slopestyle skiing, and at that point in time, I didn't really see a path for me to continue competing in slopestyle. And I got the opportunity to try aerials, and I saw it as a path for me to continue skiing as a career for at least a little bit longer in my life. And so I took that shot, and it's worked out for me so far.
Yeah, and I'd say, like, when I say, like, aerials doesn't, you don't choose aerials chooses you,
Mm-hmm.
it's because the sport is absolutely insane. Talk to any park skier, we get a lot of no Steves comments.
Yeah,
but
we do.
I know very few park skiers in the world that would even consider hitting our jumps. And,
Which I go into the park for fun on my
Yeah.
off days. So
And so you kind of look at that, and I think that if you look at a 72-degree kicker and that shoots you 60 feet up in the air, and you're doing a triple backflip, and you have any interest in hitting it whatsoever, that's kind of your sign that maybe aerials is for you. But
Definitely.
the sport chooses you. We're never going to be baseball or soccer or basketball or anything like that, where we're having, the hundreds of thousands and millions of kids participating all the time. Because at the end of the day, you got to be a little bit twisted to want to hit that jump. But I'll tell you what, it's the most fun and intoxicating sport in the world.
definitely. So I think that will wrap it up for this episode of the Airborne Podcast.
Yeah, if you made it to the end, congratulations. I'm stoked on that. It was a lot of fun going through those questions. And then Lake Placid World Cup coming up this weekend. We're ready to go kill it.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll be able to do an episode next week from Canada
Give us
talking about how we fucking
Yep.
crushed it
Uh-huh.
and what we're going to do the next weekend. So we're going to be bringing episodes to you just about every week for the next 3 weeks and through Deer Valley. And then once we get on the road to China and Kazakhstan as well. So stay tuned and, keep tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you all on the next one.
All right.